Hey there, it's Paul with The Right Way again, and I have an important question for you today. It's about your ideal customer profile, and is it detailed enough? Most companies think they have one, but when you dig a little bit deeper, you find gaps. Sometimes these are very big gaps, the kind that can cost you time, money, and missed opportunities. But a clear, detailed ICP is often what separates teams that spin their wheels from teams that close more consistently. It aligns your sales and your marketing efforts. It helps you prioritize the right prospects, and it ensures that your messaging resonates with the people who actually need what you're selling. Without it, you're essentially guessing. You're just hoping that someone, somewhere will be interested. And we never want to base our business on hope, because we need a plan, let's be honest. A comprehensive ICP really needs data in four main categories: firmographic, geographic, psychographic, and behavioral. Now, you might be familiar with some of these terms, but here's what matters. The specificity that you bring to each of these categories, particularly psychographics and behavioral insights, it's really going to determine whether your ICP actually drives results or just, sits somewhere in a sales deck or a marketing deck somewhere and is not used. Where does this detailed data come from? What you want to do really is you want to start with your own customers and prospects. You want to analyze sales calls. What questions are they asking? What objections come up repeatedly? You want to survey your existing customers. You want to understand their goals and their pain points. You can review your CRM data for patterns of company size and other industry, deal velocity. These are things that can be done without talking to customers, but those are trends that also need to be brought into play. Once you have a draft based on real customer data, then you can kind of head to like AI answer engines. They are definitely useful for refining and expanding your ICP. You just don't want to try to figure it out from scratch with an answer engine. It's just going to frustrate you. They can be used to help you identify additional pain points. They can suggest relevant buying triggers or even validate some of the assumptions you have. But the point here that's crucial is always start with your own data first. AI can enhance what you know, but it can't replace the insights that come from actual conversations with your customers. So let's take a look at the first pillar of a good ICP, firmographic. When building your ideal customer profile, firmographics are really the foundation. They are the concrete and measurable characteristics that help you identify, which companies belong in your target market and which ones don't. First, you'll need to know their industry or type of company. Are you targeting, for example, SaaS companies? Are you targeting manufacturing? Are you a doctor looking for patients in your local area? Is it B2B, B2C, or B2G? That's business to business, business to consumer, and business to government. Maybe you're targeting privately held businesses or PE-backed firms or public companies. This matters because each industry has different buying patterns, budget cycles and decision-making processes. Next you want to look at company size by employee count. A founder-led startup operates very differently than a 50-person SMB or even like a 500-person mid-market company. The org structure, the number of decision makers, the complexity of the sale, it all changes. Annual revenue is going to give you another critical data point. It's going to tell you about their financial health, their ability to invest, and often correlates with their sophistication level and their needs. Finally, you can look at budget allocation. What percentage of revenue do they dedicate to purchasing solutions in your category? Understanding this really helps you position your pricing and demonstrate ROI, in terms that they already think about. So talk in their language, in terms of data points. Now let's take a look at the second pillar of a good ICP. That's geographic. It's really not just about where your customers are located. It's about understanding how location shapes their business challenges, their competitive landscape, and their buying behavior. So, it's a lot more than just a zip code or a, headquarters address. Location really determines potential regulations that company might face, whether they're even state or federal or global. In some cases, global practices, business culture, competitive landscapes, and even potentially language nuances. Are you targeting North America, Europe, specific states or provinces? Each geography sometimes requires a different approach. It's obvious that a company in New York would operate differently than one in Texas or Toronto, but really understanding those regional characteristics can help you tailor your messaging, your sales approach, and even your product positioning. It can be really important. Now let's take a look at section 3, the third pillar of an ICP. That's psychographic. This element is really understanding what drives your customers, their goals, their pain points, attributes. This is what really transforms your ICP from a basic profile into a tool that will make your messaging impossible to ignore. And there's a couple of key parts to this. So the first one is going to be business goals. That's where you want to start. What are they trying to achieve? And we want to go beyond just like growing revenue. Everyone wants that. You want to get specific. Are they trying to increase revenue by like 25% year over year, or is it 25% every quarter? Now, that's pretty aggressive. I don't think anybody's doing that right now, but you never know. Are they trying to increase customer retention, or as we say, also lower churn? Are they trying to launch into new markets? Are they trying to better align their brand engagement with annual revenue and business results? When you start understanding their current situation, their pain points, their goals, it just helps you position your solution as the bridge between where they are now and where they want to be. Your messaging will land much more powerfully because it speaks directly to their aspirations. Now also, let's look at pain points. As studies of human psychology have shown, what really drives business decisions are avoidance of current pain and fear of future pain, rather than rewards. We're not talking here about, like surface level pain. We really want to try to understand, the deep, urgent problems that are keeping them up at night. Kind of going beyond like an annoying workflow or something like that. That's all surface level. Some companies might say, hey, our lead quality is poor. Are they trying to generate traffic, for example? Are they generating traffic, for example, but they're not getting enough conversions? Is their revenue growth below, let's say, 15% annually when they need to hit 20%, based on, CEO or board targets? Are their target markets poorly defined, causing them to waste resources on the wrong prospects? So, pain points have consequences. A poorly defined target market doesn't just waste marketing budget. It can frustrate sales teams. It can extend sales cycles, and it can really tank morale in some cases. When you can articulate these pain points better than your prospects can, you can start to establish some credibility, but a lot of it is really learning how to connect with your prospects and understand the world that they're living in, so you can help drive change. We also want to look at like attributes and cultural traits. When you understand, does a company have perhaps like antiquated processes? Are they over reliant on, like, let's say, a partner channel? Is there some kind of like maybe organizational inertia that's holding them back? Think about the disposition of the organization that you'll be collaborating with. Where do they fall on the innovation spectrum? Are they like leaders who jump on the bleeding edge, new solutions first? Are they like an early majority that move once something is proven? Are they like a late majority, who wait till it's like standard practice? Or, in some cases with more established industries, they might be considered laggards, who would resist, change altogether, which isn't necessarily a negative. It's just that type of industry that they're in. Understanding this can really help tell you whether you're a fit, and if you are, how to approach that company. It also helps you understand their risk appetite. Are they willing to try new vendors, or do they just want to stick with established players? Are they innovative early adopters or conservative laggards? We kind of went over that. Are they frustrated with their current agency or in-house team and actively looking for outside help? These attributes tell you how to sell to them, what objections to expect, and how to position your solution as either safe or innovative, either proven or cutting edge. So let's take a look at the fourth and final piece of a comprehensive ideal customer profile. That would be like the behavioral data. Understanding how your customers buy, who's involved in their decisions, what triggers their search, and where they go for information. That really helps you, so you know where to show up at the right moment with the right message. First step here is to map out their buying process. Who's involved? Is it just the CMO, or do you need buy-in from, let's say, the VP of marketing, or do you need marketing managers to be involved? What about the CFO? What about the CRO? And how many vendors do they typically evaluate? Are they cross-shopping like 2 or 3? Or is it like over 5? Some companies really want to be thorough. Understanding this really helps you differentiate early and often, and to understand the sales cycle. A typical timeline, is it 2 weeks? Is it 6 weeks? Is it 6 months? That's really going to shape your follow-up cadence, and your sales strategy. Turning to like the purchasing decision makers, we've got to really know exactly who makes the final call. Is it the CMO, the CEO, the buying committee that is perhaps, looking at these options and evaluating the pros and cons and voting on it? And who are the influencers of that decision? You might have some people who are your kind of rallying cry in the organization, but those are people that are important to pinpoint. The marketing managers who will actually use your product. What about the IT team that's concerned about integrating with other software if you do sell software. So mapping out the entire decision-making unit, because if you're only selling to one person, then when 3 need to say yes, you're going to lose deals that you should have won. So let's turn to buying triggers. This is a real game changer, actually. What events cause them to start looking for a solution like yours? Is it like a new funding round that frees up budget? Is it perhaps like a stalled pipeline that's causing some panic? Is it a merger or an acquisition that requires process integration? Maybe they just missed the quarterly targets and the CEO is demanding answers. These triggers really create urgency. When you can identify them through alerts, through research, or discovery questions, you can reach out, exactly at the moment that you feel they're going to be most receptive. You're not interrupting, you're just arriving right on time. And then, also finally understanding their tech stack and how they research products and solutions or services that you're offering. What tools are they already using? Do they have a CRM platform? If so, which one? Are they using marketing automation? Are they using sales intelligence tools? Are they using business intelligence, BI tools? This can tell you about, the integration needs and then also potential competitive displacement opportunities, if you are, in that vein. Where do they go to learn? Is it LinkedIn? Do they go to industry events? Do they rely on referrals from their network? This is what we mean by meeting them where they already are. And you want to meet them with content and outreach, that kind of fits that into that research behavior. Here's the truth. Each of these categories matters. But psychographic and behavioral insights are really what can move the needle. They separate average sales teams from top performers. And anyone can really target like SaaS companies with 100 to 500 employees. But can you target like SaaS companies struggling with lead quality, who just received a Series B funding round, who have a CMO who researches on LinkedIn and typically involves 2 to 3 marketing managers in the buying process? That's really where we start getting some precision. And it's also how you can create messaging that truly resonates, and do outreach that gets responses, and have demos that actually close. That's really going to give you, much better results. So you may be saying to yourself, geez, this really seems overwhelming. How do I collect all of this? It just sounds like a bear. But what you can do to make it a lot easier is you can systematically build certain questions into your sales process and into your CRM, for example, so that every discovery call, every demo, every customer conversation is an opportunity to validate and refine your ICP. You can add some fields to your CRM. You can train your team on what to ask and why it matters. You can create these feedback loops, where sales insights flow back to marketing and marketing research informs sales strategy. That kind of brings us to like the final critical question is, are your sales and marketing teams closely aligned? Do they both own the ICP? Are they using the same definitions, the same data, the same insights? Because an ICP that lives in a marketing deck but not in sales conversations is worthless. When both teams can take ownership, when they collaborate on defining pain points, identifying triggers, and understanding the buying process, that's really when everything changes. Your win rates are going to start to increase, your sales cycles are going to start to shorten, your marketing spend is going to become more efficient. And all because you know exactly who you're targeting and why they buy. The first step is to really take a good hard look at your ICP. Hopefully you have one. If not, go out and create one instantly. But if hopefully you already have one, and so you want to look at it and try to fill in some of these gaps. Get specific on psychographics and behavioral triggers, and make sure that your entire revenue team is aligned around the same profile. So your ideal customers are out there. Just make sure that you know exactly who they are and where they are. Thanks for listening. We also help companies. If you're interested, you can reach out to us. You can schedule an ICP audit with our team by going to rightwaymarketing.com and clicking on the Connect page. And you're welcome to schedule that audit. We'll be happy to look at your ICP and give you some feedback and help you make it better. But if not, I hope this was helpful. I hope that you can get some of this information into your ICP so you can really start getting some better results and start scaling the company the way you want to.